Okay, so welcome back to Human-ifesto. This is the podcast where ADHDers and the people who care about us come to understand who we really are beneath the noise, the labels, and the lifelong misunderstandings. Season 1 was all about laying the foundations. It was my story and our shared patterns and the identity work that so many of us have never been given the language for. But Season 2 is where Human-ifesto opens up. This is where we're going to move from solo storytelling into real conversations with real people. Today's guest is someone who represents a very real and very human part of the ADHD experience, the part so many of us live but rarely talk about. Owen was diagnosed at age 6, but like so many adults with childhood diagnoses, he grew up knowing the label without ever really being given the understanding. And he spent years just trying to crack on, pushing through the world with a mind built for intensity, creativity, music, and momentum, all while dealing with the shame, the masking, the struggle, and trying to figure out why his Ferrari engine never came with the right brakes. He's honest, he's energetic, he's reflective, and he's right in the middle of that journey so many of us are going to recognize the moment where you stop fighting who you are and start learning how to work with it. And that's exactly why he's here. So, Owen, welcome to Humanifesto. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I just wanted to start off with, how nice you are, Matt, and how much advice that has actually changed my life you've already given me. And only a few times I've seen you. So, I know I'm in the right place, but yeah, I'm really, really happy to jump on it and see what we can do, see how many lives we can also change. And yeah, just props to you, mate. Thank you for having me.
100%. No, it's great having you here. I think this is what Humanifesto is all about, right? It's all about the people who are dealing with this day to day. And I know there's plenty of podcasts that bring doctors and psychologists and experts and so on, but this is all about real people and real stories. So, speaking of real stories, you were diagnosed when you were age 6, which is pretty young. And when we were first talking about that, it got me thinking about how I appreciate I had some challenges getting diagnosed later in life, thinking about how much easier I thought it would have been if I'd have known about this sooner. But then from the conversations you and I have had, you kind of like gave me something I'd never really considered before in the fact that even if you learn about it when you're at a young age, you probably don't have the sort of intellectual capacity to really understand what it means that you've
Yeah.
got a different brain that's wired differently, right? So thinking about when you found that out when you were growing up, how different was your understanding of ADHD as a kid to what you know now?
Yeah, well, it's massive. I
I bet.
always saw it as a label and I never really reacted to it anyways. I didn't really care, to be honest, when I got told or when, my teachers told me that I had too much energy or, that I had something particularly different about me. I just sort of parred it off.
So, being diagnosed at such a young age, like, how different was your understanding of ADHD back then compared to what you know now?
So when I first got told, I didn't really care, it didn't really affect me at all. It was just some name or something that was told to me. I actually do remember when I got told I have Asperger's, I called it Arsburgers and I laughed. So that tells you everything about who I was back then or still am now, right? I feel like my inner child's coming out recently, and it's great to see.
Nice.
But it did, over a certain amount of time, it did start becoming a label and an excuse, but I feel like that was more internal than anything else. It
Hmm.
started turning into something that I would use as an excuse for doing something wrong or making a mistake. And I don't know how that got wired in, but it's obviously the wrong way to look at things. And something I did actually speak about on a previous podcast, was the one time that I did say it at the studio, and they said never to say that ever again, never use it as a label. It doesn't define who you are. It just means that, you have a certain, difference in your brain, which I don't feel like is a bad thing at all. It's a superpower, as we'll go on to that. But yeah.
Yeah, of course. So, when you say about using it as an excuse, do you mean as in using it with an excuse to yourself, or do you mean using it as an excuse to other people, like teachers, parents, friends, and so on?
A bit of both, I guess. It obviously come down at the end of the day to me having, with, at the end of the day, the teachers saw me as having, too much energy, as a massive distraction. But at the end of the day, he's sitting down in class and looking at a screen and someone talking for 6 hours without, doing anything practical or without being immersed in the actual lesson, then that affected me, and that's normal. That I know is for, many people with ADHD and autism as well, that can't do that, and it's a different way of learning. And I feel like as well, regardless who you are, if you have an engaging lesson and an engaging teacher, you're going to absorb the information much better anyway. So I just feel like it's something that they should look at and change. So if they get us right and they are able to teach us in the best way, then it will probably help everyone else much better as well, because we're probably the most difficult to work with in that kind of environment because we are
Yeah,
such
yeah.
high energy. So yeah, going back to the question as well, I feel like it definitely was, an excuse that I told myself, but I told myself so many different excuses to why I wasn't successful. And I don't believe at the time I was even, I didn't even believe that I deserved success. So all of this internal sabotage was obviously coming from the label that I was given as well. So I feel like it was just an easy get out, definitely.
Yeah, I think lots of people listening will be able to relate to that. I know I had very similar experiences as well. I didn't have the label at the time, but I still had the various excuses because I think when you've got ADHD, whether you're diagnosed or not, you realize that there's things that you do and ways that you think and ways that you feel that are obviously different to the people around you because it comes out in the interactions that you have, right? And I think it's difficult sometimes that you don't have the language to explain why you do what you do. Like you talked about the fact that we tend to be high energy, for example, in class, we get fidgety because we need to move around to be able to think properly and think clearly, you know what I mean? And sitting still, being quiet, fingers on lips, like teachers used to tell us, that's literally the opposite of what works for us, right? So when then we start getting fidgety and we start misbehaving or disrupting other people, when we start getting in trouble for that, we don't want to get in trouble because we know we're not bad like people
Yeah,
inside. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
You realize there's a reason for it. You just don't have the words to explain it. And I think that's where the excuses come out because you're like, I don't deserve to be in trouble for this. So I'm going to come up with some excuse to try and get myself out of it because it just feels so wrong to be blamed. Does
Yeah,
that make
yeah, no,
sense?
definitely. And that's something that I actually realized recently as well. Like so many times that I would actually have something confident to say and it would come from a good intention, or it might be a funny joke or something. Someone
Hmm.
takes that the wrong way, or they want control over the narrative, or they want to say no to
Yeah.
that. Do you know what I mean? They want to point the finger. That makes me feel pain. And then that also makes me feel like actually something that was good and that was coming from a good intention and positive from me is now turned negative. And now I'm like, whoa, I should probably not do that again. But I've learned recently to say no, that was positive from me, and I'm being who I am, regardless what you say to me. And if you have that reaction, then that's okay. That's your problem, and I won't take that to heart or anything, and maybe you're going through something, maybe I should be more attentive, maybe next time, I'll pre-warn you. Do you know what I mean? Or something like that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I will not let that affect who I am and my positivity that I'm giving to the world.
I love it, man. And that's interesting talk the way you were talking about in terms of being who you are and not making apologies for that, right? And I was going to ask you the other day when we were talking is when you got this ADHD label when you were a kid, do you think that that had an impact in terms of how you saw yourself growing up, like your self perception?
In a way, but again, I just got to that point where I really didn't care. Like I have these phases in my life where I care an awful lot about what people think, and then I don't care at all, and it's definitely something that was up and down throughout my life, and also something that I felt was, I was a bit ashamed to say, like I did a podcast, my first one actually, not the one that I actually released. There was one previously that I got taken down, and it was actually really, really good. And I'm thinking about putting it back up. But I spoke about me having it on there, and I felt so weird and so like different, and for sharing that, it actually scared me quite a bit at the time, but now I'm like, I am normal, I am I am me. Do you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, something that my mum said as well, like we all have something wrong with us. Do you know what I mean? We all have some
Yeah, of
kind of,
course.
you would have something. Do you know what I mean? And it's like
Huh.
if you had a name for every single thing that the part of the brain has, like, we'd be here forever. Do you know what I mean? There's people out there that don't have anything on the spectrum, but are in so much of a worse position or are consumed by bad habits,
Hmm.
and realistically, is it really something that's wrong? Do you know what I mean? It's just who we are. And we should not be judged, predetermined on something like that, because at the end of the day, I know when I was a kid, I wasn't the best person. Do you know what I mean? There was obviously things that I do, that would be, questionable, let's say that. But at the end of the day, I was still one of the most kind-hearted souls who had freedom. I had freedom as a kid. I wouldn't adhere to any instructions. I wouldn't do anything. I would run off down the street like it was normal, But then I was
Yeah,
told
yeah.
not to do that because of stranger danger and all these other things. And I feel like I probably was the most freest person, and it just comes down to really, you know, what is like, who are you as a person? What is your soul? And you can't put a label on someone's soul. Do you understand? Like, you can't put a
Wise words,
label on
man.
someone's soul. Like, we are all people and we are all loving. We all want to be loved. So who cares what label you have or what job you have, or it doesn't matter. It's all who we are, and the genuine energy we have. And I feel like that was taken away from me as a kid, being in school, going through the
Hmm.
system, and all these other, pressures of society, let's say.
Yeah, 100%, man. 100%. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, when you were just talking about the podcast episode that you didn't release, or the one that you took down, you
Yeah.
mentioned that you were a bit scared. Do you mind if I ask what you were scared of?
I guess people picking at my life,
Hmm.
and again, it's something that
Like being
happened
vulnerable and out
recently.
there for people to see, you
Yeah,
mean, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, definitely. And that happened to me with the recent podcast I put up, and I nearly did the same thing. I nearly did the same thing and self-sabotaged on that one as well, because I was scared of showing that vulnerability and knowing that my life is out there, no matter how messed up it is, that people could pick at that, and trigger me. But I'm not allowing that to trigger me anymore. I'm not allowing my past to get to me at all, and I will only speak about it, and I will always use that pain as power, as I explained in the podcast. I feel like as well, there's so many times that I go up and down, and we'll probably get into this as well, but you go up and down, and when you're in that low frequency, when you're going through something again in life, you can think negatively about something that's actually positive, and that's just what I did with that, but yeah, I will not subject myself to that anymore, and I will continue to share, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I think that's amazing. I wish that there were more ADHDers and other neurodivergent individuals, right? Because it's not just ADHD, like you mentioned, it's autism, it's bipolar, it's dyslexia. I mean, there's so many that we're aware of these days. And I'm curious about what changed for you, because earlier you mentioned a moment ago about how you kind of oscillated between caring too much about what other people think and then just telling yourself, right, enough of that. I'm not going to care what other people think at all. But it seems like the way you're describing it now is that you're in more of a kind of balanced place where you're open and honest about who you are. You're not letting yourself overthink and ruminate about how other people may perceive you, or whatever. Was there something that caused you to change, or was there something that you did, something you learned, or is it just getting older and getting more comfortable with who you are, or
I
something
guess
else?
all of that. All of that, I
Yeah.
guess it's just the right place at the right time. I meet the right people like you, Matt. I get the right advice consistently. I do the right things. I've been building the right habits. I've been less hard on myself. If I get to that point where I feel like I've done really, really well and I feel that I'm pushing it, I can actually feel that now, of like, with that 80% rule, do you know what I mean? Of being not just going 110% every day, but if you get to that 80% and you feel yourself, like diminishing a little bit, then you just go, whoa, like, let's chill for a sec. Let's do some meditation or read a book or go for a walk or go for a run or something like that. Do something different and then come back. I'm going to be so much more energetic. And there's a few mantras that I've actually lived by, since I actually been researching a few things online as well. And I
Hmm.
feel like the most important thing is the rabbit hole that that you can go down with thoughts, right? And especially with ADHDers and obsessive mentalities that we have, we can
Yeah, we do.
obsess, over obsess about the wrong things, and I obsess over everything. So if something goes wrong, I would be sitting there analyzing exactly what went wrong, and I'll be going through all these things in my head. And now I'm thinking, how much time have I wasted? How much energy have I wasted? Because now a bad thought comes in, and it's like you have one of them ads, right? The really annoying ads that pop up on your phone or something,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you've clicked on that, yeah, and then you click on it again, and then you click on it again, and then you click on it again. You're not getting anywhere. You're not watching the video that you actually wanted to watch. You're not moving forward. You're just clicking on these really annoying ads that get you nowhere. So it's something that I've obviously lived by is don't double click on a negative thought. So don't double click on it. If a negative thought comes in,
Love that
okay, press
analogy.
it. You might think, whoa, you know what? Yeah, okay, I could have done that better, or I could have done this better, but I'm not thinking about that. And then you just push it to the side. Do you know what I mean? And then you get on with what you're doing again, and you use that energy, or you write it down. You think, well, okay, so this happened in a way that I wasn't expecting. What could I have changed about that? Write it down. And then there we go, let it go, and then move on, because you haven't got to ruminate over something negative. And the more you ruminate and attach yourself to something negative, the more negative you're going to feel, and then it just snowballs, doesn't it? So why not think
Absolutely.
about the positive things more often, and then you're going to find more positive things, and you're going to feel better about yourself, and you're going to be able to deal with them problems much better as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because like obviously the human brain is wired for negativity, right? Because it's that survival instinct, you know. So it's always scanning for threats, which means that threats and negative experiences tend to be easier remembered by the brain. And then when you've got ADHD, where you've got the heightened and more intense emotions, I think that in itself can also make it sometimes difficult, you know, when the negative thought spirals start, that intense emotion just comes bubbling up like 0 to 100 almost in an instant, and it makes it difficult to not double click on the ad, doesn't it?
Very. Yeah.
Great example.
That's why it's so important to, be kind to yourself and be kind to the people around you, and just know, like, if you're feeling bad or you're feeling negative, just give yourself that time to reset.
I was going to ask you about that actually. Is that, do you think there's more challenging these days in terms of keeping yourself in that positive mental state with the kind of throes of social media and so on? Do you think it's harder to remain in a positive state, or do you not think it makes much of a difference? It's more about who you are and what you do.
Definitely. I've watched some beloved people ruin themselves from social media, and I've also been one that's also affected. But the thing is, with me, is I use it to promote brands. I use it to, promote I use it to promote what I'm doing. I
Hmm.
create content. I listen to the right things. I use it to message people. When most people, they sit on on TikTok
Doom
for like
scrolling.
3 hours,
Yeah.
and that I did do that. I did do that when I used to have a phone and stuff. I used to laugh for hours and hours. Do you know what I mean? Just laying in bed, like, it used to be funny. It was amazing, and still to this day, I don't mind a little meme here and there. But at the end of the day, I've seen people that I've loved dearly, right, sit on their bum on a sofa all day scrolling and watching TV, and that can't be healthy for you. I've seen them, and they are so depressed. Do you know what I mean? And they just feel so negative. I've had to deal with that stress as well. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like,
Hmm.
man, if you just see it and you just change the mentality, if you just put the phone down for a little bit, if sectioned your time to do it, you can still do that. There's nothing wrong with it. It's good. It's a good thing that technology is good. It's allowed us to do this podcast and share what we're gonna
For
share.
sure.
But it has to be balanced. You have to balance it, because you can't just look for dopamine hits outside of you all the time. And that's exterior, isn't it? You
Yeah,
need to go
exactly.
within. You need to think within. You need to close your eyes. You need to just be okay with yourself, and you need to sort these things out, because if you're constantly doing that, you're just consuming loads of information, but it's not getting you anywhere, because you're so burnt out. Your brain's so burnt out. You're not yourself, and you have to go back to yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's where the vicious cycle comes in, right? Because the more time you're spending on social media, the more time you're seeing these sort of perfect, curated versions of people's lives. And then it just sort of expands that gap between where you want to be and where you think everybody else is. But in actual reality, a lot of the stuff that you see on social media is not actually where people are, it's how they're presenting themselves to be, right?
And I'm like, I am there. I'm there. I see myself as around these people. I see myself relating to people who are poor. I don't look at this massive constructs. Okay, it's a celebrity, amazing. Okay, they've got 1 million followers. That's impressive. All right, so he must be doing something good. But I don't see it as a difference. I see it as another person, another human that's obviously be able to build success. And I can do that as well. And anyone else can if they put their mind to it. But you can't idolize it. You need to put yourself right next to him. And that's what I do. And I say to myself, I am there. I'm there already. I'm rich in the mindset, I'm already rich in my head. My bank account, I've got $1 billion, I've got friends who are massive celebrities, and that's what I already think in my mind. I've already got a Porsche GT3 RS. Do you know what I mean? And
Uh-huh.
it's only a matter of time till that shows up in real life. I've already said this. Like, I already can see this construct in my brain and me performing in front of thousands of people. I already see this in my brain that I'm going to change 1 million people's lives. I'm going to help 1 million people who struggle with mental health, and I'm going to help the world in some way that makes it better, because there's obviously too much negativity, and there's a reason why we're stuck like this. And I've seen all of this trauma and people who are struggling with addiction, drug abuse, and all this other stuff
Yeah.
happening. That's already happened in my brain. It's only a certain amount of time till it will actually be reality. So that's what I say.
I love it, man. Honestly, your positivity is infectious.
Thank
So
you.
So let me flip it for a second. So just thinking about obviously growing up with a condition, and it seems like you've got yourself into a pretty good balanced mentality, right? In so much as you know where you're going, you know what you want, you're more comfortable with who you are, and so on and so forth, right? So do you think when you were growing up and, in your sort of like late teens, early 20s and stuff, do you think you ever had struggles and difficulties with being misunderstood, either at home or school or socially or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. There's obviously a time in my life which was it's just tragic. That's the word. It was just tragic, and I will take you back to my music career, and what we were doing for the community then. I had such a good intention. I was hosting events, we was raising money for mental health, and it was just an incredible time. And we really planted, we put the stickers out there,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
we planted a name in the community for something that was just so positive and amazing. And certain things happened that also got to my head, and people started saying that, oh, he's only doing it for the money. Do you know what I mean? He's not giving that money to charity. He's only using mental health and these flush words to promote. That's all he's
Mhm.
doing. It's not really because he cares about people with mental health issues. He's just doing that regardless. He's just doing it for the clout. He's just doing it for the views. And that actually got to me, because I thought, like, people actually believe this. And this is again going back to, I don't care what you're saying because it's not my problem and it's not who I am. But that actually seeped into my consciousness, because I then started to maybe believe that I'm not that person. Maybe I'm doing it for that. Do you know what I mean? Which was wrong, because
So
it's
it
not
caused
why
you to
I was
doubt
doing it.
yourself, you mean?
Yeah, definitely. And
Huh?
it's happened many times as well with other people. For example, my ex who I was with, like, she lost all belief in me. She thought that, no, there's no way that this guy's gonna change his life. There's no way he's gonna get anywhere. There's no way. He's in a bad place and he'll stay there forever. And because she didn't believe in me, that killed me even more, because it was a mirror. Do you know what I mean? But now I do not allow anyone, right, and that's anyone, to have a different mentality on me, for that to affect me. If you have an opinion or you have a mentality about me or you think a certain way because someone else has told you, then that's all down to you. It's not about me. I will still be
Of course.
me. Do you know what I mean? I will stay strong in my character and I won't let that affect me. And these knives that you try and stab in my back and try and stab in my heart because you think it's different, that won't affect me anymore, because I'm done with playing who you think I am, and I will play the person who I am.
Yeah, good on you, man. I mean, it's difficult, right? Because I think just going back to what we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of feeling misunderstood when you're growing up with ADHD, diagnosed or not. And I think not that everybody doesn't go through phases of that. I understand that affects neurotypical people and other neurodivergent individuals same way or similar ways that it does with ADHD. But I think sometimes then when you've spent the majority of your life feeling misunderstood, feeling a bit out of place, I know certainly for me, those types of comments that you're talking about, when you know you're doing something for the right reasons and you're doing something with integrity that really matters to you and it means something to you, and then people question it and it causes other people to start doubting you, it really kind of it's difficult to keep the walls up to stop those kind of comments getting inside you, right? Because there's been, I'm sure, like me, that you had times when you were growing up where somebody told you, like, I'll give you a random example. So like I forget to do my homework and my teacher tells me I don't care. And I know in my heart it wasn't that I didn't care about not doing the homework. It was that I genuinely forgot because time blindness, got distracted, like whatever it may be. But then all of a sudden you get to a point where you hear it so much from so many people that you start thinking, which is most likely, right? Everybody in my life is right and I'm wrong, or I'm right and everybody else in my life is wrong. And you think, just on the balance of probabilities, it's like there's 20 people telling me I don't care enough, that I'm lazy and I don't try hard enough. And I'm the only one who seems to think that I actually put in the effort and do my best. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, you just get to a point where you think, maybe they have got a point. Maybe I'm kidding myself. Do you know what I mean? So I think, for me at least, I know that as I get older, it does start to get easier with time. But even now, I still struggle sometimes with those type of comments when you have this moment of maybe they got a point.
It's so facts, but again, some people realize things much quicker than others. And, looking at the greats, like Machiavelli, for example, I've been looking into some philosophers as well, and Andrew Tate, for example. I know people have some views about that. Donald Trump, some of the biggest names in the world that hold immense power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did they care about 1,000 people telling them they're wrong? Or did they care so much about what they thought and they put that into a fruition that they changed the world? And sometimes it was for the better in massive ways. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, are you going to listen to the 10,000 people that tell you that you're wrong? Or would you listen to your intuition and what the universe is telling you, or what God is telling you, right? What the power within is telling you, that matters so much more. And people just don't realize that. Don't let a bad seed get planted in your head from someone that's not you. They don't have your view.
Yeah,
Don't let it get to you.
man.
You can't. You literally can't. But it takes so long to build up, right? It takes so long to build up this confidence. You have to get rid of all the bad, and you have to sit down in a room, and you need to give yourself some time for yourself. You need to put down the phone again. You need to sit down and actually have these conversations with yourself and think, is this benefiting my life, listening to these people, or do I need to cut it out? Simple as that. But yeah, I love what you're talking, man. It's, amen.
No, serious, man.
I
Like,
love how you're talking.
yeah, I mean, it's tricky, right? I mean, because again, I think it's hard enough for us to understand our own brains sometimes. Never mind try and explain our brains to other people. And I often use the analogy like, if you don't have an ADHD brain, how well can you actually understand what it's like to have one? You know what I mean? It's because it's like a woman trying to explain to us what it's like to be a woman, right? Or us trying to explain to her what it's like to be a man. Like, there's limits in terms of how much people can actually understand, not because they're not smart enough to understand it, but just because you don't have a frame of reference about how the other gender lives, or how someone with a different sexuality lives, or whatever it may be. So thinking about that, if you were to describe your brain, thinking about like your energy, your creativity, your own rhythm and so on in your own words, how would you explain it?
Whoa, okay.
Easy question for you, huh?
Whoa, yeah, really. I would say it's a force to be reckoned with.
I
Yeah?
like that.
Okay, so it's a cascade of immense power that you can't turn off sometimes. But the flow of energy the flow of energy that you have is so powerful, you need to tame it. If you learn how to tame it, then it's endgame. ADHD and this kind of level, of hyper focus and obsession and, just the superpower that you have. If you can tame that lion and you know when to slow down and just let it flow and dance through life, right? come back with intense energy, smash the game, right? Then let it go again and just take a breather. You come back, you know how to roll through life, right? And how to
Yeah, yeah.
you know, to yeah, oh, what's the word? You know how to flow through life in a dance with these emotions and the power that you have inside your head and your heart, right? If you know how to do that, then yeah, just say you will be remembered for a long time, because it is just an incredible thing. And yeah, you just need to learn how to use it, I guess.
Absolutely. For me, it's kind of like learning how to ride a wave. You know, like when you see people surfing, it's like there's going to be times when there's massive waves coming and you got huge amounts of energy and motivation and energy and emotion. And then there's going to be times when there's not really much happening, you know, the tide's gone out or the waves have got really small. Do you know what I mean? But again, it's trying to figure out and understand that rhythm and how those seasons will always come back round again. And if the waves aren't very big at the moment, well, maybe now's the time to, like you say, pause, rest,
Yeah.
take a bit of a breather. Do you know what I mean? Because there's another wave coming, and
Yeah,
you're going to
yeah,
need to be at your
exactly.
best when that wave comes. Otherwise, it's going to knock you over, right?
Exactly. That is perfect. That is absolutely perfect. And it's definitely something I've been doing recently as well. I've been going to the gym, and then I'll come in the swimming pool and I'll do like some meditation in the water. Sometimes I just splash the water and I just look at it, just moving like this, and it's so calm, and I just watch it. I just think this is literally life. Like, it's a frequency, and the energy you have, if you match it at the right times, you can save your energy. Do you know what I mean? And find peace, and then come back with so much strength and clarity when them challenges do appear. You'll be able to attack them and just dominate the game. And when you learn how to use your energy wisely, and again protect your energy away from this negative things, and people tell you, right, this is another thing, people are trying to tell me how to live my life, but they are not an ADHDer, first of all, right? Most of the time they don't have
Yes.
the
What do they know
difference in
about
the
it?
brain. So how are you telling me how to live my life? They're not successful in a way that I would really feel as though this is good advice, or they don't know, for example, as much as you. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am sitting there, I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to learn. I need to listen to this guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's some people out there that are sending the wrong information and telling you how to live your life, but realistically, it's not the right way, and you will shrink. Do you know what I mean? And you need to learn exactly what's best for you and how to ride that wave.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't take criticism from anybody you wouldn't go to for advice. And I was like, I love that. Because think about how often, like you say, we're taking criticism and judgment, whether it's trolling online or whether it's people in the real world. And if they're not somebody that you look up to, they're not successful in the way you would define it, or they haven't understood how to work with their neurodivergence in the way you want to get to, or whatever. Why should we be listening to the negativity that they have? Right? It's easy to
Pointless.
throw stones from the sidelines, isn't it?
It's pointless. It's absolutely pointless. And you know what? I'll pull something up actually. I'll pull something up that I
Go on.
read the other day, yeah. And I'll read you this, and it will wrap it up really nicely actually. I said, I don't take orders from anyone. I don't react to negativity. I don't listen to haters. I won't shrink to your size of insecurity. I will stand tall and tower over you. I will consume your negative energy. I will eat it up and use your pain as power. If you don't like something about me, or you have a problem with me, then that's your problem, not mine. You're acting from weakness and ego. I flow through life with confidence. I protect my energy and live life in love. I have a good intention, so I give back to the world instead of spreading your negativity. That means I automatically win because I run on a higher frequency. Your projection will not intimidate me. You can't change my perception or my belief. If people think I'm weird or different, I will frame that as positive because it means I am unique. Therefore, I am not like you. That means I am valuable.
I love it, man. Do you know what? I love the whole thing, but I particularly love the bit where you said, I won't shrink to your level of insecurity. Because so often that's what it's all about, right? I'm not happy with my life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull you down a little bit. So then you don't seem like you're as high above me. Do you know what I mean? And it just ways to make people feel better about themselves because they haven't found a healthier or a more productive way to be able to do it on their own.
Exactly. There we go.
I love it. All right. So speaking about like what lights you up and what gets you going, what do you think are the conditions that switch your strengths on, the things that really kind of charge you up and bring out your best? Could be
Everything,
people,
man.
environments, whatever.
Everything right now. Everything right
Can't be
now.
everything, otherwise you'd have no negative. I'm not taking that. I'm going to pin you
No,
down.
man,
Come on.
I'm literally at the moment in time in my life right now. I'm trying to find positive in absolutely everything. Like there is nothing that can stop me. Yeah, I'm so grateful for life. I'm so grateful for the challenges and trauma and pain that I've gone through because it has molded me into the person I am today. And I love every single person that's around me right now. I have such a good network. I have amazing people that I surround myself with. I always, love fitness. That's one thing. Going for a run. I went this morning. It was absolutely amazing. Just going for a run. I took my top off. I'm literally up on top of a hill. People would not dare to do this.
I saw
I've
on
got
your
my top
Instagram.
off.
Was that this morning?
Yeah.
Mate, it was freezing.
Yeah.
What are you doing with that top on?
I'm like, mate, it's not freezing. I'm loving it. Do you know what I mean? I'm
Made
like,
me cold watching you.
I'm like, man, I cannot let anything bring me down no more. Like, I just love life. And I feel like people need to embrace it more. They need to embrace everything because there is so many things that you wouldn't even look at. You just completely forgot about this. Like, we have lights. Like, imagine you can turn on your phone torch and it will help you see. Like, people just think, oh, it's just normal. Like, look at these inventions. Like, I've got a glass. I can fill. I can put water in this and I can drink it. Like, people don't think like this. Do you know what I mean? I've got Vaseline. Like, if
No,
I've
they
got
don't.
dry lips, I can just go like this. Like, how amazing is that? Like, you just forgot. It's just turned into a habit and you don't appreciate it anymore. You need to appreciate all of these things in your life. You need to appreciate your family. You know what I mean? Who is around for you. You need to appreciate your friends of, pulled you out of the worst moments of your life. Do you know what I mean? And when you live like that, it would just be so much better. And if there's more people that think like me, if there's more people that think like us, if there's more positivity that's being shared in this world, then guess what? The world's going to get better, no? We need to stand up and fight for our future because at the end of the day, if we're lazy and we just, abandon who we are, or we're not grateful for the things that we have, if we just think, oh, you know what, this guy's got a Lamborghini and he thinks he's a dog's bollocks. Do you know what I mean? And like, man, he's nothing. He's absolutely nothing to me. When realistically, you're alive. Guess what? There's someone, could be in Venezuela, really random, could be dying right now. They could be on their deathbed. And they've never done anything but slave. They've only worked like a slave for their family. They've never been given presents. I mean, I don't know what Venezuela's like, but just saying, like, you should be grateful for where you are right now.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And I think that applies to the brain too, right? I think that for you, I see that you use so many of the strengths of ADHD in such positive ways, because yeah, it comes with its challenges, but it also comes with some really, really big abilities, like the superpowers you were mentioning earlier. And I think I definitely struggled for a while after my diagnosis, thinking about how unfair it was that I had this different brain and that people wouldn't understand and so on and so on. But I've realized about things like the creativity, like the lateral thinking and the problem solving and so on, the empathy and all these other things. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about how you've harnessed and leveraged that in terms of like your music, your fitness, your business ideas and stuff. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you're using your ADHD strengths to leverage in those areas?
Yeah, so it's been built over, the past 5+ years, I always had creative abilities, I remember just coming up with random songs that would absolutely rinse someone in my class. Like,
Yeah,
it's just caught on so well. It just flows out of me. Do you know what I mean? I'll just walk down the road and I'll just spit a few verses and stuff and I'll be like, oh man, I should have recorded that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just flows naturally out of me. But 5 years ago, I obviously was expressed, and one of my friends showed me music and I started writing bars and actually getting serious. That was like the time that I went from a really, really, like, being really addicted to drugs, and I was just a nobody, just rolling about, not really doing much. I mean, selling a bit of that. Do you know what I mean? And I was just in a bad place, and music brought me out of that. I was able to express how I felt and create new things, right? And that rolled into so much more. Obviously regarding my business plans, for example. Like, I'm just a creator. Do you know what I mean? And I create things, and it just flows out of me. I just get ideas all the time, and then I go and do it. And I feel like there's so many people out there as well that have this potential, but they don't do anything with it, and that's exactly why you're stuck. You say you're depressed, you say you're anxious, you say you're dealing with all of this, these negative things. But if you actually did it right and use the energy to create, right, and feed back to the world, and be positive, you would actually feel amazing, and that's what I sort of understand. And my anxiety now, like, I don't suffer with it anymore. It's not here anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it's not here, because I'm now doing everything in my power to, when I do feel the slightest bit anxious or slightly nervous or something, I will reconfigure that, and I will think, okay, I must be going in the right direction, because now I feel a bit scared of this. Now I feel a bit fearful that I'm putting my energy into this, or maybe like someone will say something about it. That means I'm going in the right direction. So never shrink, to that size of negativity. And this is, again, what happens is, I feel like society has conditioned us to be weak. It's not profitable if we're strong. If we're strong, healthy, we're doing all the right things, it's not really profitable, is it? The most profitable, region is the people in between. The people, because you can't profit off of people who are dead. You can't profit off of people who are really, really healthy, can you? You have to find the middle ground. It's obviously, again, bit conspiracies and stuff, but
So, right,
it's that
Joe
middle.
Rogan's podcast popular.
There you go. There we go. But yeah, there's just many beliefs that you have to just understand and think, like, why is this set up like this? Why am I feeling like this? What do I need to do to change that? Where is this energy going? Because all of us has some kind of energy and ideas that we can bring to the world. Why you're feeling so bad about it is because you're doing nothing about it. And it doesn't mean you can't enjoy life. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy a drink here and there if you liked it, or go down and watch a football game if you wanted to. You don't have to be business all the time. But if you do use some of that energy, you will feel better about yourself, because you'll see the rewards in life. I sat down and I played video games for years and years. It was fun, don't get me wrong, but the rewards that you'll get from building things in real life will far outweigh the level up of your character in a video game.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I had exactly the same thing. I was playing video games as a kid, played them even more when I was at uni, played them even more after I left uni. But the difference was, after I left uni, I kind of just fell into a bit of a difficult place, really, because, I still wasn't diagnosed then. And what I realize now, looking back, is that, you know, I think you and I were having this conversation a couple of weeks ago, like that when you're in primary school, there's so much structure, right? The teachers tell you, be here at this time, do this, just giving you all this structure and all this instruction. And then you get to high school, and then you've got to do a bit more of that yourself, right? You've got to get yourself to class on time. You've got to make sure that you're remembering the right books for the classes you got that day. And you've got to remember to bring your PE kit and all this stuff, because your parents are doing a bit less of it, and or whoever you've got at home, teachers are doing a bit less of it. And by the time I got to uni, it was literally like, if I didn't go to class, nobody cares. Do you know what I mean? I've still got to do the same exam at the end of the year. I've still got to write the same assignments at the same deadlines. And if I don't want to turn up to class and learn, like, nobody's going to chase me to do it. And that lack of structure was like super hard for me. So by the time I got out at the end of uni, I ended up getting into a place where I moved away from Northampton, which is where I went to university, to just take up a new job. I didn't really know anybody in the area. So literally my life became wake up, go to work, come home, watch movies or play computer games. This time to go to bed, and then rinse and repeat day after day after day. And I started really struggling, and I was getting depressed a lot more than normal. But again, I didn't even, I mean, it seems so obvious now looking back, with the way you're describing it. But at the time, in the moment I was in it, I just felt like, I can't understand why I'm feeling like this. Why am I so miserable all the time? Or without realizing it's me that's doing this.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm feeling this way
yeah.
because of the choices I'm making day after day, and repeating the same mistakes day after day. And that's why I feel crap.
Exactly, but you don't get given that information. They don't make it accessible for you. They make it long. The amount of times that I've felt like on the verge of killing myself, and I've been calling up, numerous different things. I've tried help with the NHS and all these other things. I did not get the support, and I did not get the information that I needed. And that's the thing, because they just want to plug you into a system again. I'm not saying that everything is. I'm saying there's some amazing charities out there. There's some amazing people doing some amazing work. I'm not saying that everyone's like this, but there are many systems out there that don't care about you, and they will never care, you know, and it's only for profit. And I'm not saying, again, it's not everyone. I'm not saying it's a certain company or individual that's doing this, but you do also need to realize that it is your life and you are responsible for what you are doing and the choices you make. And if you
Correct.
don't realize that and you keep pushing responsibility onto someone else for your mistakes because you're depressed, it's you who's depressed. It's not them. You are the one who's depressed. If you do not understand exactly what is going wrong in your life and what you are doing, then you will never win. I know someone, right, who is, you know, 400 pounds, absolutely massive, laying on a bed all day, can't get up, can't move, sitting there smoking vapes, you know, watching TV all day, playing video games. And yes, she does feel very, very bad within herself. I don't speak to her anymore. Do you know what I mean? I really hope she's doing okay. But for someone like that on the verge of dying, and me seeing that, it really breaks my heart to see how bad of a place you can get to through consuming the wrong things and building the wrong habits. Actually, I have a book right here that can fix that for you. This is actually something that I haven't even read yet, but I've gotten through probably the first chapter, again with my ADHD mind not finishing the book yet.
That's all right. I thought you were going to say it was a book you wrote, but go on, what you got?
It's called Atomic Habits, and
James
this
Clear.
book will change everything for you. You know, this is again where it goes back to information is essential, and you need to understand this. And in school, I never got this information, man. But yeah,
you're so right. So right. I mean, I love Atomic Habits as well. That's one of those books that I keep going back to, and every time I pick it back up, I read part of it. You know, I don't always read the whole thing all the way through every time I pick it up, but every time I go back to that book, there's something I read and I think I get that in a slightly different way this time. And it just goes to show how I've grown and learned from not just that book and other books as well. But that was a real good one. And I wanted to just go back quickly before I lose track and forget about it. So,
yeah.
talking about how people will struggle with depression if they're not making, you know, healthy choices and they're not aligning their life in the right ways in terms of how they define success, what they want for their life, and so on. It seems like from the conversations we've had and the conversation we're having today, it seems like music has been a really, really important part for you in terms of not just helping you to realize and get a bit more comfortable with who you are on the inside, you know, at your core, but also in terms of things like helping to regulate your mind and your emotions and so on. So can you just talk to us a little bit about like the role that music has played in your life, not just in terms of as an artist, but I imagine you listen to a lot of music and stuff as well, and likely always have. So talk to me about where music fits into
Yeah.
Owen's life.
It's therapy, you know, it is. It's therapy, and it just flows. This is what I mean. It's just Owen flowing.
I like
It's
that. You
just
want to
Owen
trademark that?
flowing. Yeah. But yeah, it's just something that happens, you know. And I come from a musical family, so I no wonder where
Okay.
I've got it from, right? You know, my dad's an amazing guitarist. You know, my uncle, he plays the piano. My granddad, he's written music for God knows how long. I just feel like it's something just built into the genes, you know, built into the DNA. And it's obviously something that flows nicely. And again, that energy that we have, especially, I don't know if people with autism, they have a certain, it's a certain word for it, like a tick or something.
Dimming.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so way,
Do
yay,
you know what
we
I
done
mean?
it.
Teamwork, we get there,
That's
man.
it.
One
There
at a
we
time.
go. See,
I can't believe it
teamwork
took us
makes
that
the
long to
dream
get
work.
stimming.
Because you just gotta laugh at it, man. No one's perfect. But yeah, so that music is stimming for me. Like I will literally just do some random thing and I'm gonna do it. And then I'll just be like that, and then it'll turn into words, and I'll just start rapping. Like it's mad, it's mad. But that's just I guess it's just built in. Do you know what I mean? It's always been built into me. But then I
Yeah,
actually started
comes with the
homing
wiring.
that and nurturing it, and creating something from it. And I have many other things that are coming out. I'm really excited about a couple music videos going to be dropping soon as well. And I'm gonna get back in the studio 100%. I've been writing some amazing stuff, more singy stuff as well. Like I've actually just realized my love for singing, like really singing. Do you know what I mean? So it's just something again that just happens. That's who I am, guys. I'm just natural. I'm just genuine. I don't have to put on an act, and that's something again that I've been, working with because I felt like I had to put on a mask and I had to perform for people. I don't. I don't. I'm just Owen. I'm naturally lit. I ain't got to perform for no one. I just am me. Do you know what I mean? I am genuinely one of the best people, with the greatest energy, that can bring it to the world. And that's what I really, really love about myself. And I know as well there's so many other people out there like us. And I keep finding them and I love them as well. It's just amazing to see. Yeah, it's really, really wholesome and heartwarming when you find your people, I think. And it just takes some time. Yeah, just be patient, but just be yourself. 100.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So let me ask you one more question, and then we'll move on to the next bit. But something I was thinking about, right? Because you got a ton of energy, and I love that. I love your energy levels, your enthusiasm, your passion, and so on. So, a question I've been thinking about listening to you talking just then is, what happens when you're forced to slow down or stop? How does that impact you?
Take a breather. Just breathe.
Yeah, you
Literally.
take that in your stride.
Literally, that is something I've learned in the last couple of weeks and has really, really helped is your advice that you gave me, and it just helps me understand. It's like, man, life isn't stressful. You shouldn't make it stressful. As soon as you start stressing or you again shrink to a level of negativity, that's when things go wrong. If you have to stop or you have to take a minute or you have to walk away from something or you have to let go in that moment or you have to slow down, that is just God's plan. It's the universe's plan telling you that you just chill for a second, just chill. Because if you try and fight that emotion and you try and fight what your body's telling you, then things will go wrong. And I've consistently been in fight and flight mode for the past 10 years of my life since I started heavily taking drugs. I believe at the time it was actually spice I was smoking. And I feel like, that's maybe another problem in this day and age. I've heard it loads of times that spice is getting into the weed now, and I used to smoke that a lot. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like it was, and it's so strong and it really got to my head and it made me, it caused me to have massive anxiety, and people didn't even see it as well. Like half the time when I was building these businesses and building these events and hosting all these different things and spreading positivity, I was actually in a really, really bad place, but I would never ever tell anyone, and finally at this time, I've actually gotten to that point now where I understand it's like, I can't do everything all of the time. And sometimes you need to chill. You need to take time for yourself. You need to take time to be around your family. You need to spend time with friends. You need to be fully present with them because realistically, you don't know if you'll die tomorrow or if they'll die tomorrow or if they'll die right now. And that's something, again, the daily mantra that I live by now is like, have you really lived your life to your fullest capacity if you died tomorrow? If you died tomorrow, are you happy with dying right now? And that is something that I've obviously been living by, and it's changed my life. And it's helped me understand, it's like, okay, if things aren't going your way right now or you have to slow down, doesn't matter because everyone will die anyway. And as long as you're happy and as long as you're positive, as long as you keep spreading that into the world, it does not matter.
Beautiful words, man. Beautiful words. I mean, seriously, because how many stories have you read and heard about over the years where, people live their whole lives and never really get anything out of it that they really want for themselves? And I don't mean that in a selfish way, but what I mean is we've all got passions and purpose and things that are meaningful for us. And I think that it's all too easy for people to go through their life and wait, thinking that, oh, I'll do that when I've got a bit more money. I'll do that when I've got a bit more time. I'll do that when I'm a bit older. And they never get around to it. And then all of a sudden they wake up one day and realize that they've missed the opportunity. It's a real shame, isn't it? Real shame.
Exactly. again, just this is that was something else that I wrote down, yeah, and I would tell this is what I mean. I'm just so glad I
You got
write
to
this
wrap
stuff
it for us,
down.
though.
Yeah, yeah, I will. But look, I could take it or leave it. You know, I don't have to be successful in business. I don't have to have a sexy girl in my life. I don't need any substances or drink. I don't need to smoke or take drugs. I don't need to explain anything or seek anything. All my power is within, and I love who I am. So everything else is a bonus. And that's how you have to live. Is you don't need to be. You want it. It's your desire, of course. It's something you really, really want, and it's something you should strive for. But what you need right now is love for yourself. And then everything will fall into place. If you have love for yourself, if you have love for the world, and you are just grateful for what you have right now, and you play your cards right, and you take it one step at a time, you will get everything that you desire. But people don't realize that, and people never will. Some people will never get to that level, and it's a real, real shame. But we are here, and we are trying to wake them up and help them get to where they want to be as well.
I tell you, man, it's like a grime version of the greatest love of all, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like me and my wife went to a show in Oxford. Like seriously, right? So we went to a thing in Oxford. There was an amazing singer and band there that were doing all Whitney Houston music, right? Whitney Houston did a cover of "The Greatest Love of All" by George Benson, and there's a line in the song where she says, and he says, "Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all." Right? And I think the original of that song came out in like the 60s or 50s maybe even. Whitney did it back in like the late 80s, early 90s, and still something that so many people struggle with. So, speaking of which, let me change gears a little bit because I love, like I said, I love the positivity. I love your like growth mentality, right? Like always pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, always trying to do more, be more, learn more, whilst keeping it authentic to who you are and what you stand for. But I also know that everybody's got ADHD is going to have their struggles, right? And while some are common, you know, that most, if not all, ADHDers struggle with, there's going to be some that are a bit more unique to each individual. So I'm curious about how ADHD related challenges show up in your life.
I feel like being a hypochondriac, maybe one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Always
feel
think you're
like,
getting sick.
yeah, like I always think like something's wrong with my body. It doesn't feel perfect. It doesn't feel right now. Maybe my leg's hurting or something, or maybe my neck's hurting, or maybe like my eye. I don't know. Like I don't know. It's just like certain things, you know, that would like really affect me. But again, it's something that I'm learning to just not obsess over. You know, and just let it be, and also take care of myself, you know, because there's obviously certain things in our lives that isn't, you know, the best, or we might have made mistakes, or we might have got an injury that still affects us, you know, but we can't just think about the injury, right? It's happened. We have to now understand what we need to do to better that. And there are absolute miracles out there. There's miracle makers out there that can change that for you, you know, and there's surgeries that you could have, and you know, there's, you know, meditation that you could do, or massages to certain places that will help and will then heal that piece of yourself. You know, same thing as you know, again, obsessing over the bad thoughts and negative parts of yourself. You don't have to. You just need to work on your weaknesses. Do you know what I mean? And and that's obviously something I've been so hard on myself for so long, but I had to let go, and I have, you know, and I feel like that's something that is, you know, that has really affected me, you know, and now because I'm getting out of that, and I'm seeing between the fine lines, and I'm understanding boundaries and who I am myself and what I need to do for myself. It's not being selfish. It's being, you know, it's being respectful to yourself, you know, and respecting your body. Do you know what I mean? Respecting who you are, you know, and taking care of yourself is so important, you know, and that's definitely something that I've dealt with. You know, I take care of everyone else, but I don't take care of myself. But now I'm learning how to balance that energy and take care of myself so that I can take care of others much better.
Yeah. I mean, something that was obvious to me in the very first conversation you and I had, because you were talking about fitness and how important that is in your life, and how, like I mentioned earlier, it helps with how you feel, it helps with how you see yourself, as well as obviously the benefits of just being physically healthy and being in good shape. But I know there'll be lots of people listening who struggle with being consistent with fitness, right? I mean, I know this doesn't just affect the ADHD population. ADHDers are notoriously bad for being consistent with stuff. So how do you manage to stay consistent with something like that? Because I appreciate, like, when you went out for your run this morning, like, fair play to you. I mean, like, I go to the gym, but the idea of going out in the freezing cold and running around my shirt off, like, I- that ain't gonna happen. Do you know what I mean? At least not for a while until the weather warms up a bit. So how do you? Because you must get that, right? Like the kind of voices in your head about, like, oh, don't go out, it's freezing cold, just stay in bed 5 more minutes. Do you know what I mean? Like, all of that sort of internal narrative. So how do you stay consistent with that when I'm sure your brain is plenty of times just telling you not to?
I'm a beast, absolute beast. No, you
I was
can't
looking
tell
for a
me
bit more
not to.
detail, if I'm honest.
Oh no, I had to say it. I had to say it. But yeah, it's something that I've had to build over time, you know, and it's just about keeping the promises to yourself. If you say to yourself that you're going to do something and you don't do that, you've already programmed your brain into, mental masturbation. That's the only side
Hmm.
of things I can
Yeah, yeah.
say. It is not the real thing. You haven't done anything, but you've spoken about it and you thought it. So it's giving you that dopamine hit, but you didn't actually then like condition it with something that's real. Do you know what I mean? So you didn't get the idea and then actually do it and then can make that connection. You just went and did it and now it's just floating around. Now it's just pointless. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
and then you've done it again, and now it's just pointless. You're just constantly thinking, but you're not doing. You have to take action. You have to go and do it. And there is sometimes that, like, I try and get up at 5 a.m. every single day. There is sometimes that I don't get up at 5 a.m. and I don't do my meditation and I don't do certain things. I cannot be hard on myself. Do you know what I mean? Now, I am not perfect. You know what I mean? But I will then go, you know what? I want to go for a run right now. So now I'm going to start my day with something, and I'm going to now actually get up and I'm going to go do this. And if I then start off with bang, that's one tick on the board. Oh, and then, I'll eat a piece of fruit. That's another tick. Now I'll do some press ups. That's another tick. Okay. Now I jump on a podcast. That's another tick. Now I'll read a book. That's another tick. And now I'm just in momentum and you can't stop me. Do you know what I mean? Once I get
Hmm.
going, you can't stop, and it's like when you understand that in yourself, and you see like the first the snowball is like, it's really, really small, and it just seems so pointless with why you're doing press ups in the morning, or why you want to start going to the gym, or why you've now gone for 2 days and you're like, oh, I ain't got a six pack already. This is pointless. No, you're just at the start of your journey, bro. Like, just let it go a
Yeah.
bit more, and the snowball will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you'll be like, oh, okay, I'm actually getting somewhere. And then you start going around. Now, let's say a year's passed, and you're now you've been to the gym twice a week, for example. Now you're going 3 times a week. Now you're going 4 times a week. Now you're going 5 times a week. Do you know what I mean? Now you're doing all these other things. Then it's just gonna turn into this massive ball, and you won't be able to, yeah, you'll be unstoppable. That's just how it is. And then it will actually build, not just from the habits you've actually made and the consistency of what you're doing it, but you will actually now turn into that person. You will now become that person with them habits, and it won't stop you. Like, I can't go back to who I was because I've built myself up to such a strong character right now that you cannot bring me back. You cannot get to me. I am unstoppable. And I will go out and I will do these things. And even if I miss a couple of things, that's okay, because then I'll come back with an even better thing. I mean, I'll go do this another challenge, or I'll challenge myself again, or I'll do something else, or I'll come up with something, or I'll make some music, or I'll just sit there and I'll just meditate and I'll just laugh at myself. Do you know what I mean? And I just love it.
Sense of humor
There's
is important.
again, exactly. But it's like, just don't worry, man. Like, just go and start. Like, you haven't got to be the greatest. But this is something, from the start of my network marketing journey, there's someone that has told me this. You don't have to be great to start, but you need to start to become great. Just play that. You don't have to be great to start. No one is great at the start. You know what I mean? It's very, very peculiar if you could get in the gym one time and now you're absolutely shredded and now you've got a six pack and everything. There's no way. Like, people would definitely think you're taking steroids. Like, there's no way. That's absolutely impossible. But someone who's really, really skinny, got absolutely no muscle in whatsoever, went to the gym consistently for 5 years, eating steak and eggs every single day. Now he looks like an absolute beast. And people are like looking at him like, what the hell has happened to him? But he's actually done it the correct way. And guess what? He started from absolute zero. I started from absolute zero. So are you going to make the promises to yourself today, and then in 5 years you're going to be really, really happy, and your future self be really a pat on the back, Owen, amazing, I'm really, really proud of where you got to? Or you're going to look in 5 years and be like, oh my god, I did absolutely nothing, I feel like a waste of space, I regret absolutely everything, I should have done this, and this, and you're going to be stuck in a pool of regret. And that's exactly what I don't want to be. So yeah, say it to that one. Take your shirt off, go for a run, mate.
Right, okay, give me 2 minutes. I'll be back now. Actually, it's
I
getting a
love
bit
it.
dark now. Maybe I'll give it 5 minutes. Fair.
I wasn't saying it to you directly.
Yeah, I know.
Oh
I
man.
know. Look,
Oh
I'm older
man.
than you anyway, so I can get away with it.
Man, you don't have to change for the world, man. You're a great guy.
Well, you got to say that, I suppose, innit? 'Cause, I'd cut you off otherwise. The power of having the control in it.
Oh man.
Let's just think about a couple of other questions then, because obviously, we've talked a lot about you, about your life, your journey, and so on and so forth. Let me give you a few quick fire questions. So, what does your brain feel like on a good day?
Every day's a good day, man. Like recently, I've just like it doesn't matter. Every day's a good day. Like it has to be good. Do you know what I mean? Even if like what do you define as bad? Like like you just have to find the good in everything every day.
But we all have bad days, don't we? Or you're telling
Mm.
me you don't have bad days at all?
What I have
I'm
had,
not saying you can't
I
reframe them,
have
but we
had,
all have good and
yeah,
bad days, no?
reframe, yeah. I would say I've definitely reframed them, but on a bad day, I just guess not affected now. Now not affected. Before it would be chaos. Now I've found peace in the chaos. So my brain is calm. I guess is calm on a bad day. Yeah.
Okay. And when you talked about the chaos, right, and that sort of calm in the chaos, what do you mean by chaos? Do you mean that there's lots of ideas bouncing around there? Is it rumination? Is it giving yourself a hard time? Like when you've had bad days in the past, what was that internal experience like in your brain? Like if you could point a camera in there and show people what it was like, what do you think they'd see?
What on one of my really bad days?
Hmm.
Well, that would be suicidal. That would be me feeling suicidal. Definitely. That would be when things have gotten well too much. Everything around me is just absolutely evaporated. Everything's crumbling. All the empire that I built is crumbling. The people that I thought would be there for me cease to exist. My mentality is absolutely terrible. I've gone against my promises. That's something again. I've gone against the promises that I made to myself. I might have lost some money. I might have lost a friend. I might have attacked someone dear to me. Do you know what I mean? I might have just done something terrible. Do you know what I mean? I might have, injured myself. Do you know what I mean? All these setbacks. But I used to let it really, really affect me. And I used to think like, man, this is I can't deal with this anymore. I want to kill myself. And there's nothing. There's no way you're gonna get out of this. This is too hard. This is too much of a challenge. Do you know what I mean? But then I've just been like, man, I cannot quit now. I cannot just kill myself. Like imagine how people would feel. Imagine how my family would feel. Imagine what I've built. Like I will never ever be able to change people's lives who feel the same as me, right? Who actually went and killed themselves, right? I know people have actually gone and killed themselves. I cannot let that keep happening. If just because some setbacks I get, I can't let that get to me, can I? Do you know what I mean? So now I've learned how to just stay calm. If something bad's happened in my life, or someone left, or I lost a bit of money, or I borrowed some money to someone and they didn't give it back to me, then guess what? That's just taught me a lesson, though. It's taught me a lesson, and it's just given me some information where actually I can reframe that. And now, because I've then gone through that obstacle and gone through that challenge, that has actually made me into a better person. So that's actually leveled me up, not depleted me just because it's a setback. Actually, I can use that and move 5 steps forward using that loss as a lesson than just ruminating in the loss, and getting stuck in that bad energy.
Yeah, I love that, man. I mean, the reframing, the being able to look at things from different angles and then choose the meaning that it has for you in the moment, right? Like you look at a situation one way and the meaning's not serving you and it keeps you stuck where you are or makes things worse or whatever. But then you can look at the exact same scenario, like the examples you were giving earlier, that there's people in far worse situations than we're experiencing right now. And that's not that it diminishes the experience that people are going through, but it just highlights the fact that perspective is something that we choose, right? And we can make a different choice if the perspective that we got isn't giving us what we need.
Exactly, man. I couldn't say
I
it
love it.
better. Legend.
All right. So, next question is when we first started talking about doing this episode, it came up in conversation that you wondered whether or not you'd fully accepted your ADHD. Sitting here now having this conversation, do you think you have?
Yeah. Yeah, and you've helped me bring that to light. So I appreciate you so much for doing that, you know. Everything happens for a reason, you know, and I'm really glad that our paths crossed.
Me too, man. Me too. And if you don't mind me saying, because I forget stuff easy, what do you think shifted it for you?
So many different things. It's just again consistency. Consistency is so important. Consistent events in my life over the period of, you know, the past 10 years have allowed me to be fully accepting of myself now. And it's never one event. It's never just one thing. This was all planned, and I know this was all planned, right, to get me to where I am today. Every single thing that happened, every single thing I went through, every single person I met, every single little piece of advice or little video that I watched on YouTube about these philosophers, right, that has made me into the person I am today. So I can never put that down to one extreme event. I've been through so much. It's been crazy, and I've got so many stories to tell, you know, but every single little thing has consistently made me a better person and consistently shown me the way. It will never be just one thing in your life. You might have one really bad traumatic event that might shift your mentality, yes. Okay, but it's happened to me so many goddamn times that, you know, I start to think that it's actually a good thing now, you know, and I feel like, you know, when again going back to what you said earlier, you will never really think about it when you're in it. You'll think it's the end of everything. But when you get out of it, you'll see the difference, and then it's your job now just to see when things like this come up again, because they will keep coming up. You will go through challenges, you know, you might go through other traumatic things, you might lose a loved one, you know, like these things will potentially happen, right? But when you realize this and know how to deal with it, you won't let it get to you anymore. You'll use it as power, and you'll use it and you'll reframe it in a way to actually benefit yourself and benefit others, you know, and it won't affect you as much anymore. And I feel like that's something again that you just build that mental strength as you grow up. And it just comes with time. You just have to give yourself some time. Just be patient, you know.
Nice. Yeah. Patience in particular. I think that's a big one because if you've got ADHD, being patient doesn't necessarily come easy.
Yeah, but something you said, you told me, right, which I'll always remember,
Go
is,
on.
you know, we have to stay patient with ourselves. You know, we're always running at 100 miles an hour all the time, you know, and things won't get done exactly, you know, when we say it's going to be done. You know, we need to just chill for a second, you know, and you know, and savor that, because we can't be on 110% all the time. You know, we have to just stay balanced, you know, and just be like, you know, and write these post-it notes down, and you don't need to rush everything. Owen,
Yeah. Yeah.
remember that? I know you told me that. That was really,
Good
really
effort.
good. Yeah, and just saying, you know, that, you know, like, you know, just because this reel isn't going to get posted right now and you've missed out that window doesn't mean you have to do it. Just pause. You don't need to rush things. Remember, you don't need to rush. You can reframe it. You can come up with a new plan. You can figure things out. You can think about it a little bit longer if you wanted to. You don't need to rush greatness, and you can't rush greatness.
Yeah. All
So
right.
thanks for that one.
No, you're very welcome. Let me ask you another tricky question. So,
Okay.
and I got this from I watched a documentary Stephen Fry did about his bipolar on BBC a few years back, and somebody asked him a question that he then started to ask the other bipolar individuals that he met through the course of this documentary that he made. So the question I got for you is this: if I could give you a pill that if you take it, your ADHD would disappear immediately, would you take it?
No, no,
Why not?
no,
Because a lot of people will hear about ADHD and the challenges and stuff, and they'd be like, why wouldn't you want to get rid of that?
no, no. You're not taking it away from me, man. You're taking me away from me.
And what is it about ADHD you wouldn't
God,
want to let go of?
man, just the energy. There's no way. Like, yeah, I just love it, man. It's amazing. It's amazing to be. It's amazing to be ADHD. It's amazing to be with ADHD. I should write that down.
I
See,
was going to
there's the
say, there's
music
your new
coming up.
hook.
There we
That
go.
sounds like a
See,
hook for a tune.
see. Cha-ching. But yeah, there's nothing that can match it. And yeah, and some people that I've met as well who have ADHD, it's when we bounce off of each other, it's just ridiculous energy, and like people just can't match it. But even sometimes as well, like you have so much high energy that everyone else around you then seems to have high energy as well because they feed off of it, which is just
Yeah.
amazing. I just love it, man. It's just amazing. Like, yeah, it's just a high level energy. Yeah, high level energy.
Cool. All right. So we're nearly done. I just got a couple of other quick ones for you.
Yeah, please.
So one is, if you could go back in time and meet 6-year-old Owen, what would you want him to understand about ADHD at that age?
I just actually flash
Do you want
back
to,
and
you've been getting
like
philosophical, so I'm going deep.
oh yeah, like I was handing my 6-year-old self like a piece of information. That was crazy. It's like a mental visualization. But yeah, I just say it's a superpower, little man. To just use it. Just use it to your advantage. Just do it, man. Don't let anyone bring you down. Just be yourself and everything will fall into place. Everything's unfolding perfectly.
I love that. And do you know what I love about that? It links exactly to what we're trying to do with the podcast about authenticity. And I didn't even put you up to that. So nice. Last question. So if you were going to give one piece of advice either to other people in the world with ADHD or the people who care about them, so like their partners or parents, friends, bosses, etc., what bit of advice would you give?
Never let anyone dim your fire. You're an amazing person and you have an amazing gift, but people will see that as a threat because you have high levels of energy and confidence that no one else will be able to comprehend. If you let them get to you and you let them get to your energy, then that will diminish your light and you will then sacrifice who you are. So never, ever, ever let that happen.
Tell you, man, we need you on a stage with a microphone quick. Do you know what I mean? Like, the more people that can hear stuff like this, the better. I mean it, honestly. Wicked. Well,
Write it down, man. Just write it down. Let me sign this.
yeah, I'll have it on eBay as soon as you break and go famous.
Thank you.
So, look, mate, I just want to say thanks so much for making the time to be on the podcast and have this conversation today. I really enjoyed it. I know the people listening will get a lot from your story too. I mean, I love how real it is, and I love how your whole sort of like approach is that things don't have to be perfect, right? It's about progress and remembering that, you know, there's living in alignment with who you are isn't something that you have to apologize for. And I think that's exactly what we're trying to do with this podcast in terms of helping people understand that it's not about hiding and living in ways that other people think make sense, but it's about making a life that works for you and makes sense to your own brain, however that works, right?
Exactly. 100%.
Wicked. All right. So before we close, anything else you want to share before we go?
It's just thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing. I can't wait to share this with people, and we can keep doing this. You know, there'll be other opportunities coming up as well. I know, and I just love what you're doing. More people need to know about this, and we will share this light with the world. Yeah, I love you all.
100%.
Thank you so much for the supporters, and yeah, let's keep growing together. OwenX, peace out.
Wicked. All right. And look, Owen's Instagram handle is going to be in the show notes. All right. So give him a follow, have a look at what he's doing, check out him, either listen to his music or you can see him running without his shirt on, whatever it is that gets you out of bed in the morning. And most importantly, right, if this episode did hit home, then follow Human-ifesto, leave a quick rating or review, and share it with somebody who you think either needs it or will get it. Because genuinely, every share helps more people find these conversations and figure out their own journey back to themselves. So, look, thanks ever so much for listening, everybody, and we'll see you again on the next episode. Go on.
Make sure you hit a like, subscribe, comment, do the whole thing. It's been Owen Hopkins, OwenX. Peace out, guys. Take care of yourselves, yeah? We'll see you on the next one.
Nice one.